So the final tour that we're actually going to talk about today is Granton Hub. This is also a tour in the making. And Gina Reddie is part of the Granton Hub, I would say, and she's going to present this tour to you. So thanks very much, Gina.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thanks very much to Nikki, of course, and to Bill for inviting me tonight, and also for inviting Granton Hub to take part in this Curious Edinburgh walking tour programme. My name is Gina Fierlafijn Reddie, and I'm a member of the steering committee of Granton Hub. We are a community group, and we started up by running a series of cultural pop-up events, and that was back in 2015. After this, we became a SKIO, a charity, in 2016. We run a number of activities for the benefit of the local community. We organize painting classes, we have craft sessions, we do upcycling and recycling activities, we have art exhibitions, we have a thriving community garden, and we're also opening a cafe shortly. However, we also have an extensive archive that is relating to the history of Granton, and it is some of this information that we would like to incorporate into a Curious Edinburgh walking tour. For those of you who are not familiar with Edinburgh, here we are. If you look on the Google map, you see that Medelvik House is close to Granton Harbour. We are in between Newhaven and Cramond, which is just about half an hour walk away along the promenade and the foreshore. If you were to do our walking tour, these are some of the sites that you would be enjoying. In Granton Harbour and across to the foreshore, you will get gorgeous views from Cramond Island and also from Fife. You will be able to see the Granton Gasworks in Victorian times on the left there. There is lots of green space and there are parks. However, there are also derelict areas where once industry stood, and these spaces are now waiting development. What we would like to incorporate in some of the tour stops is the history of Granton, of course. And just to give you a quick overview, we have the harbour, which has, of course, in the past had fishing fleets, whaling fleets, there were ferries, and there was even a train ferry to Fife. There was oil and petroleum companies, there was engineering companies, there was a foundry. There was a company that supplied inks and oils for the printing industry. There is imports of esparto grass, which was used for the paper mills. There was an ice factory, there was intricate railway network, there was even a tram. There is the Victorian gasworks, like I said earlier on, and there is the Granton Quarry. Stone for that was used for all sorts of construction in Edinburgh. It's mentioned in some of the literature it was used for Holyrood Palace. I'm not sure if that's true, but it was used for the statue of Nelson on Nelson's column in London. As I said, lots of this has disappeared, and we would like to point out through the tour all the remnants of the past and what it means to the older folk in Granton who have perhaps worked in these industries, but also to all the new people who are currently moving in through all the new developments that are going on. So this list is not complete, but we're hoping to pick some of the stops for the tour in the future. However, Nikki has asked me to illustrate one stop, and the one that I have picked is this one, is the Medelvik car factory, and you can see it just on the left there. This is Granton Hub, which is the original Medelvik house, and the car factory is next door. However, before I tell you something about the Medelvik car factory, I'll explain about the Medelvik Motor Carriage Company. This one was founded by William Pegg, later he became Sir William Pegg, and he was the Edinburgh City astronomer and an inventor. He was the director of the Edinburgh City Observatory from 1889 until his death. In 1889, he was also elected a Fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh. He was an inventor, and he invented telescopes. One of them can still be seen at the Stirling Highland Hotel. However, what we're going to talk about here is, of course, the Medelvik car factory. This was built, completed rather, in 1899 at a cost of £33,000. The factory was reputed to be the very first purpose-built factory in Britain, with an office block next door, which is Medelvik House, the one that we are currently occupying. It had a test track. Some some references are that this test track was supposed to be on the roof of the factory. I'm not entirely sure. But what I do know is that the factory was used for assembling electric cars. Now, you heard it right. This is electric cars in 1899. Now, William Peck had quite a vision. And this is the vision that he wanted to establish. It was very ambitious, of course. He had a catalogue, and the Granton Hub have recently managed to obtain a copy of the catalogue. I've got a digitized copy here, and I've used some of the images for this tour and for this talk as well. However, back to the car. The Medelvik electric car was a vehicle driven by a fifth wheel that was fitted between the two front wheels. And now I'll read something out of the original, well, the auctioneer's description of the brochure. The vehicle was driven by a three-wheeled front axle unit comprising of a motor, batteries, and a small central wheel set behind the axle, which propelled the vehicle. The unit was mounted to the front of a chassis, creating a five-wheeled automobile, but could also be attached to any horse-drawn carriage. The reverse was also true, because if the batteries run out, they could just take it off and put a horse in front. This fifth wheel was such an iconic design that William Peck actually had it incorporated into the building. And you see it on the right there at the top, where you have this circular design of the fifth wheel. However, to make a business viable, he had to negotiate various deals, and one of the deals he had was with the post office in 1899 to carry the mail between Leith and Edinburgh, 500 kilos of it. Of course, it's slightly uphill as well, which must have been quite a challenge, especially, for running on batteries, basically. However, the public didn't really like his idea, and by April 1900, the company was already in trouble. What I've done here is I've listed some of the companies that occupied Medelvik Car Factory, and as you can see, 6 different companies, all relating to making cars, buses, chassis, lorries, even taxi cabs. However, all of them failed. So what happened to the building? Well, in the First World War, the factory was used as a depot for torpedoes. However, in 1925, things slightly changed, and we have a company which was actually a consortium of different companies. Some of them were based in Granton, there were some in Leith, and I think the original ones were even from Glasgow. They decided to move into the premises, into the factory, to start manufacturing industrial wire cloth and non-ferrous wire. Now, today, that company is still there. They've actually moved across the road. You see that white space across the road. That's actually the purpose-built factory of United Wire, and they have been manufacturing in Granton for the past 175 years. However, what about the factory today, the original factory next door to Granton Hub? This is how it looks like today. Unfortunately, quite a derelict state. It's had various owners in the past. It was part of the original, well, the site at the National Galleries of Scotland, who at the back were developing a repository. They had some ideas of what to do with the factory. Unfortunately, it didn't materialise, and they returned the ownership back to the Scottish Government, who then recently, in March, have turned ownership to Edinburgh Council. Of course, at Granton Hub, we are very keen to find out what the plans are of Edinburgh Council, and we hope that as a community hub, we will have some involvement in realising their plans. That was my illustration of that one stop. What I would like to say, though, is that, as I mentioned recently, or just now, we do have the original. We had the original catalogue that we purchased through an auction, and we managed to digitize that copy. Some of the images I've used in this talk, but we do have the catalogue for sale, and if anyone is interested, please get in touch after the talk. Thank you very much.